but that's okay. It's part of trading. In fact, that could actually be a really good educational thing for you guys. Um, Let's get Spy. What's Spy doing? Dumping. Who would have figured? All right, Evan, give me the thumbs up whenever I'm good to go. So, guys, the plan that I got for this is basically I want to walk through. All right, perfect. We're live. Basically, I want to walk through how I create a watch list for the next day. I'm going to talk a little bit about just some of the different things on my setup. The reason I'm doing this is I get literally hundreds of DMs a day from many of you guys, people on Twitter saying, "Hey, what are you doing? How are you doing it? You guys have a lot of success," which we do. Right? If you were to look at our watch list for today, we did really, really well if we traded it. Uh, Many of you guys did. Congratulations. I myself, I broke my own rule. I forgot I was trading with a small account, and I got burned by it. But that's okay. We'll make it back next week. Not worried about it. Um, these things happen. So first of all, I want to walk you guys just a little bit through my chart, what I have set up, and then we're going to go into how to build a watch list. So off the bat, when I am trading options, I'm looking at three different charts primarily. Specifically, when I'm choosing what I want to watch, I've got my 5-minute chart up here. I've got my, sorry, got to pull that up to the daily. My daily chart here, and then I've got my weekly chart here. The reason I want to look at all three of these is because I want to get the idea of where a stock is, where it's been, and potentially where it might be going. So whenever I look at anything that comes up on my scanner, these are the things that I want to look for. Because you want to find something that has range, that has volatility, that could give you the best bang for your buck. Now on here, there's a couple different indicators that I use. Up here on the 5-minute, I've got my VWAP, which is your volume weighted average price. I've got my 20 SMA, which is typically a pretty good indicator of when you should enter and or exit a position. So if it's above the 20 EMA, typically pretty bullish. That's your basically your moving average for 20 days. Below, pretty bearish. So obviously you see bullish. The moment it crossed here on SPY, it kind of just went downhill all day. So I've got that. That's the yellow, and that's an RCB one. You guys can find that somewhere in here. The VWAP, that's pretty standard. I also have the EMA clouds by Ripster. I find these to be pretty helpful. I mean, it's basically just your EMAs, right? You've got your most recent, the ones that are a little further back, and then the ones that take in much longer time frames. These things typically tend to act as support or resistance. So if they're green moving up, bullish. If it flips over to red here, at least on the nearest ones, that's when it's bearish. You can kind of see. I also keep those up down here, but we'll get to that in a second. And then the last indicator I use, at least on the chart itself, is the Momo zone. So if I were to zoom out, you guys would see these yellow and kind of red areas. And I can even click on some other charts so you guys can see that, like red and yellow. Red is where supply is. So that's historically, at least over the last 50 bars of whatever time frame I'm on, that's where something has struggled. And yellow, which you can see a little bit here, that is where something has had a thing called demand. So supply up here, demand down here. That's where things have typically bounced and there's been a lot of buyers. So that's what I'm looking for. And then I also have my daily high-low indicator. That's what I use when I'm trading options. Typically when it breaks above is when I'm going to take a call. When it breaks below this down here, trigger points, that's when I'm going to take a put. We'll walk through that in a second. A couple other indicators I like to keep up. One, volume. You always want to see, is there a lot of volume? Because that could help you see whether this move is real. And on volume, that's going to jack up the IV. So you want to track this line right here. Right, you see that little yellow line? That is what you call the average. So that tells you where things are average. So today, like let's just take SPY, for example. SPY had 59 million volume. Good amount, but average over the last 32 days, 72. Tells you it's lower, right? All right, so that's what we got going on here. This blue line right here, that's the 200 SMA. That's also a really, really important level. So you notice when SPY kind of came down right around that area is when it bounced back up. Huge. Last thing I look at is the MACD. So the reason I look at the MACD is I want to see if there's a bullish and or bearish divergence. So right here, when things started to fall apart, you'll see blue line drop below the yellow line. That's a bearish divergence. Now, conversely, here towards right around here, the blue broke above the yellow. That's what you call a bullish divergence. That means things are usually going to be going up. So the reason I look at all these different indicators is because I find that together, if I can kind of see like, oh, hey, it's breaking above the red right here. It is breaking above on the MACD. It's getting into a bullish divergence. Perfect. This is probably a legit move, right? Then obviously via WAP, you can see that, yeah, that's unfortunate. Apple expired worthless, whatever. So that's what's going on there. Down here, I've got my weekly and I've got my daily charts. Just because when I'm picking plays that I want to look at, these are things I want to look at. Again, I got the MACD here, just trying to look at the bigger time frame where we at. So obviously, SPY is in a pretty bullish divergence that goes back to the beginning of October. So there's that. Good on the weekly as well. And then this thing right here, it's a combination of two different indicators. It's the TTM wave and the TMO real. This is, again, it's very similar to the MACD, but I'm just looking for confluence. Are all of my indicators telling me the same thing, right? So SPY right here, it's riding this EMA cloud right up. And whenever it breaks down is when you want to start to get cautious if you're in a long position, or if you're in a short position and it's going down, whenever it breaks through, like right here, is when you want to get a little cautious. So just something to pay attention to. Right here is obviously time and sales. I got level 2. This chart right here is linked to whatever it is that I'm watching on the day. I've got all of my different watch lists linked to it so I can easily get to them. Tickers I'm trading today, we're going to fill that out in a second. Same for the watch list contracts right here. But for me, I want to be able to look at whatever I want to look at on a much higher time frame. I've got a screen that is actually above up here. You guys can't see it right now, but every ticker that I'm trading for the day, I have up there typically anywhere from 10 to 12 that I'm just watching so that I could see if it's getting near to a breakout or a breakdown point. So that's that. This over here, this is my active trader. This is linked to my watch list contracts, which we're going to talk about in a second. But basically, once I find my watch list and the contracts and the breakout breakdown levels, I load all of those contracts in here so that, oh, I can hit hide. There you go. So that I can easily just click on the different contracts. They automatically pull up if I want to buy or sell. And so we'll walk that through that in a second. But this is basically my screen. Again, I have a secondary screen that's up top. So now I want to show you guys how I scan the tickers that I'm looking for. So I am going to go in here. I'm going to load a scan query. I would like to look for my inside bar play today. I'm going to scan for a second. And so there's a couple different things that I've got on this, and this is something I've shared, obviously, in the EDU section here on Real Ones. It's just loading up here for a second. If not, I've actually already got them all preloaded over here. But there's a couple things that I want to walk you guys through. So for me, whenever I'm trading an option, I want a stock that is not a classic penny stock. So I'm looking for anything over $5, under about $1,000. And so I set that here. The way you guys can set that is you can add filters. So you can do stock, option, fundamental, study, pattern, if there are certain things that you're looking for. For me, I am just trading the inside bar plays, and I'm going to describe that in a second once we start looking at charts. So I set that $5 to $1,000. I also want a stock that is fairly liquid. So I'm looking at something that has at least 1 million shares that have been traded today. There is no max because some days we have had tickers that have traded 1 billion, which is pretty wild when you think about it. And then I've got a study. It's a custom study, right? And again, I've shared this with you guys. But basically what I'm looking for is that the low of yesterday is lower than the low from today. And that the high from yesterday is higher than the low from today. And so you can actually adjust this if you want. If you want to look at stuff to do a back test, you can come in here and you'd be like, hey, I actually want to check this thing out from like 3 days ago, right? So you can go and check that out and then, come back here and change this to 4 and 3 as well. You hit OK. Then you can scan. And so what this is going to do is this is going to look for stocks from 3 days ago. TOS is being a little bit slow right now, so I do apologize for that. I already have the watch list pulled up for us. So that's how you find an inside bar play. And then there's also one additional filter that I've added because some of the stocks that do pop up, they're not stocks that have options. And so we are focusing on options in this account, which is something that I think is really important. It's a great way to grow an account. And so I have added this filter here, which again, you can do a add condition group, which is what I did, right? And I have said that I want an option, and the way you do that is here, you go to option. I want an option that has a volume, so this would be a volume on the day, of at least 1,000 contracts sold. And the reason I say that is because I want something that actually has liquidity. I don't want to be trading something that doesn't have liquidity. I don't want to be trading something that isn't moving. The last thing you want to do is to buy a stock and not be able to sell the contracts that you picked up. So that's the scanner. And then what you can do with this scanner is you could actually come up here, and this is what I do. You could say save scan query. It'll give you the opportunity to save the name for whatever you want it to be. And so I never actually had to come in and scan because I've already pre-built this scanner. It automatically updates. But you can save it as inside bar today, whatever you want to call it, right? And that's how you build your scan. It's pretty simple. And then for me, what I've got is I've actually got it pulled up in a watch list here. And so if you were to come in here and to say personal, right here, inside bar today, then I can open it. That little green circle right there, sorry, that means that it's constantly updating, right? So it's not static like some of these other plays that I have. This is a constantly updating one. Now, I also built a second scan. I'm just going to go ahead and pull it up for you guys. This is one of the ones that sometimes tells me which stocks I should really be paying attention to, and it's called an unusual volume. And for that, I have just added this additional study here. So for that, you come in, it is a stock, it's a study rather. So you come up here, you go add filter, right, study, you click on it. So we'll just do this. I'm not going to actually save this one. And then you come in here and you go, okay, volume. I want unusual volume. And so I want to look at a stock where the volume has increased 20% from its average over the last 50 periods. So what that tells us is that this stock has actually gotten a lot more movement, even though it's been in this period of consolidation. If you have read VPA by Cooling, you will know that this is telling you something. Whenever you see volume, it always precedes price action, right? VPA 101, you see a lot of volume, not a lot of movement. It means somebody is soaking, somebody is accumulating. That stock is probably going to go soon, one way or the other, right? And that's just a good indicator of ones that you might want to pop up onto your unusual list. So you'll see here, we've actually got some crossover. So whenever I pull these up, if I see any of these that kind of match up, we're going to take a little bit of a closer look to them. So that's how I built my scan. So let me talk to you guys a little bit about what a inside day is. Super, super simple. So this right here is the daily chart. I'm going to pull it up bigger so you guys can see it. Inside day is simply this. It is where the high and the low of today or yesterday, depending on when you guys are doing this, is contained within the high and the low of the previous day. So you'll see the low here, high here, low here. What that tells you is there's some consolidation here. Typically, whenever this high breaks, there's a pretty significant move up. And whenever this low breaks, there's a pretty significant move down. Now, there are lots of different types of inside bar plays. There's a normal inside bar play. Maybe you're going to find something like, let me see if I can find a double inside bar play for you guys really quick. Because you can actually adjust the filter on the scan that I sent you guys to be able to do this. Nothing's popping up right now. So doesn't look like there's any double inside bar plays. Maybe there's, I don't really know. But yeah, so the reason I've chosen this trading strategy for what it is that I'm doing is because I found it to be one of the most consistent. If you guys have been following along with our watch list, every day for the last week and a half, we have been delivering 100%, 200%, 1000% winners, and all of it has to do with the technicals. The only losses we've experienced, like the one I did today on Apple, are the ones that have come from FOMO, the ones that have come from chasing, from not obeying a system, right? So I will fully own it. I did not obey my rules today, and I paid dearly for it. That's okay because Monday's a new day, and I can make up for it by following the rules. So once I get that scan, I've got it loaded up into a watch list. As you guys can see, there are quite a number of names, somewhere around, I'd guess, probably about 30 to 40. The next thing that I do is I really just go through one by one and I look at them. I don't really pay attention to this chart up here because I got a lot of stuff, but I look at the dailies. And so I come through on the weekly and on the daily and I say, okay, what are the stocks that I like here? And of all the ones I like, I've got a separate watch list called Tickers Trading Today that I'm going to add them to. So AES, this is obviously a stock that has been consolidating here for a little while. Obviously, it had a pretty big move up here from 24. Actually, not that big of a move. It just looks bigger because it hasn't had much range. And so I'd look at a stock like this. I'd look, hey, you know what? Like several months ago, back in April, you were up around 28, 29 bucks. But lately, your range has been 22 to 24. Now, on 0 DTE or 1 DTE, these are the kind of contracts that can provide a lot of movement for you. But for our sake, given that we're making a watch list for Monday, I would look at this and say, you know what? I just don't think it can move enough to be able to provide me some of the volatility I need to make money. So AES is not going to go on our list. Now we come to AFRM. This is a name you guys probably know. It actually had an inside bar today. Yesterday, it experienced all-time highs after several weeks before experiencing all-time highs as well. So I'm looking at this going, you know what? This is actually pretty good. Like if it breaks this level of like, I don't know, whatever today's high was, 166.9, there's a pretty good chance, or I'm sorry, 166.05, there's a pretty good chance that it can make a move. But if it breaks the low of 159.65, likewise, there's a good chance it can move back down here to the 140s. So AFRM is going to be one that I'm adding to my watch list for Monday. Contracts are going to be a little more expensive. Keep in mind there is theta decay and all that kind of stuff, but it is one of those ones that can pay really, really well. And then I keep going down the list. So I'm looking at Any. All right, so Any, what do I know about Any? I know it is a Bitcoin play, sort of. It's got links to it. It's also a high momentum play. Now, a couple days ago, last week, $8. So I know this thing's got range. It's dropped down, a lot of shorts in it. These are the kind of plays that we can see is, you know, have lots of movement. Like this day, it went from $5 all the way up to about $12. Had an inside day. It's been consolidating in this range, at least in terms of open and close for a little bit of time here. It has had some other inside bar plays. I actually like Any where it is right now. It's sitting right here with the EMA clouds. Looks like it wants to be crossing back over. Here on the TMO reel, at least on the daily, it is getting a little bit more bullish. Yellow means it's moving more towards bullish. You got the MACD lines that are getting closer and closer to each other. Long term, maybe not as good, but given that social media is a part of this play, I think it's actually one worth adding to our watch list. Add it. Now, something to note too, I only typically have 10 to 12 plays on my watch list just because life's a little bit easier that way. All right, so moving on, we got AR, Ontario Resources Corporation. Again, this is a stock. It's been trading in a range for a really, really long time. It's had a lot of upward movement. On the weekly, it looks to be flagging. But I look at this one for a daily mover, and I go, man, today your range was 20.47 to 21.50 range. I mean, even this day, it's like $1.50 range yesterday, but it's like not even $1 either way. I don't know that this is a stock, especially if you were to pull up the options, which aren't until November. They're just not super liquid. And I'm looking at that on a separate screen, which if you're in TOS, you can do this, and then you can actually detach it if you want to, if you've got multiple screens, which is what I do. But this is not a play I like. Even though it's inside bar, it's not one that I see being very profitable. Now I come to BKKT. All right. Here we are in the daily. Had a nice, massive run up. Pretty cool, right? I like that. Then it's just been fading and consolidating. Now its high is about $20 higher than where it is. So it came up, came down, came up, came down. I actually like this one. I really do. This is another one of those ones that had some social media on it. It's definitely one that I think is worth paying attention to because the fall has been on much lighter volume. You've got to imagine there's still some shorts who are sitting in here, and it has had a couple inside day plays that have all broken down. So I look at this and I go, hey, it's sitting at these clouds. Like obviously you go further back, it's had a couple big spikes like this. For a weekly to be able to pick this up on a Monday, right? You could pick up 32 5 calls for next Friday for basically, I don't know, $3 or $300. And on top of that, it's had contracts for $35. It had like 2,000 sold today, so that tells you that some people are betting on a little bit of a bigger move. So I'm going to add that to our list because I like it. I think it could do really, really well. So now we got 3. See, this would be Citigroup. Look at Citigroup. It's been falling lately. So what are we seeing here? Well, when this thing has fallen before, it's always found support somewhere right around this range on the weekly, right? About 64.98. Not quite there yet. It's been in this downtrend. Obviously, it can continue to break down a couple bucks. It also has a lot of room up here. But what drove it last time? It's earnings, right? Had some earnings here. Slowly started to grind up. I move over here and I go, hey, we had earnings significantly less. Probably means it's going to keep going down. It's totally okay because we can make money both ways. But as I look at this, $2, like a dollar range today. You even go back to last Monday, so that'd be here. Didn't even have a dollar range. So I'm not going to add C. It just doesn't have the kind of volatility that I need for it. If you're doing this kind of stuff on Friday, that's a different story. But on a Monday, 20 cents on a $70 stock is not really going to give you the kind of profits that you need. Now, Chewy played this one yesterday, and this was a 850% runner. It was beautiful. I like Chewy. I mean, look at the weekly. Up, down, big week. This week, indecision candle. What does that tell you? Going to either go up or down. And typically it's pretty significant. So I like these inside bar plays on Chewy. Last one we saw had a, I don't know, $10 jump. Here, obviously fell because that was a really, really big jump, but it's still above that breakout point from 2 days ago. So I think we might find some support there and start moving back up. So I'm going to add that to our watch list. I do like the play. Close the indexes because we don't actually need that. Moving on, CLR, they had earnings. Obviously, big dip, came down here, moved back up. This is Continental Resources. I literally know nothing about this company, but obviously bounced up, fell down, bounced back up. This actually is pretty bullish. I'm not saying long-term trajectory it's bullish, but as I look at how the stock responded with the way the markets were today, I kind of like this. It's not bad. Contracts are fairly cheap, but I'm looking at them right now. Again, I'm doing that here. I do have it pulled to the side. They are not liquid at all. They're just not. I mean, today they had, in terms of calls, most of the things sold today were puts, but they didn't even have 200 calls that were sold today. So this is a play that I'm going to pass on mainly because there is not the volatility that I need for the options that I want to trade. Moving on to Costco. Played this one last week as well. Beautiful, beautiful play. They had great earnings. They've just been grinding up. Yesterday, they hit all-time high. Today, they consolidated here. Now, notice on the daily, we got a gap down, right? We got a couple dollar gap down. If the markets end up opening pretty bad, this might come back down with it. Costco, it did have a lot of contracts that were traded today for next week, both on the long and the short side. So I like this one because this candle is almost halfway in between these. And the contracts, they are a little more on the expensive side. I'll give you that. But they do provide some pretty good range. So I'm going to add that to our watch list for Monday. CPE had a nice break up here from 56 to 60. This is Calone Petroleum. Given where oil is right now, and given where this thing is on the weekly, if you look here, kind of hitting a triple top here over the last I don't know, 6 months or so. And you even go back further, like it's been years since it's been here. So given this pattern here, triple tops, if you know anything, that is pretty bare sign unless it could break through. So I'm going to actually add this. These are November 19th contracts that we're going to be looking at. So these are the kind of plays that you could actually swing if you want to. All right. So hopefully you guys have an idea of kind of what I'm looking for. I'm looking for direction. You know, this is obviously good. They had great earnings. If oil prices continue to jump, we're going to be in pretty good shape. CP&G, nice move up. Obviously 26 to 29, but I'm looking at like a $3 move over the course of a couple weeks. Even though the contracts are a little bit cheaper, it's just not something that interests me all that well. Actually, maybe it does. Look at this. If it can get up over this level right here, which it topped out at yesterday, then we might actually start moving up because this right here is a heavy level of resistance. So I'm going to put that on here actually now that I'm looking at it a little bit more. It did have good liquidity in the contracts, but if it can break up over, we might actually see it start to climb back up into the 40s. So I'm going to add that in. Oh, sorry. I mistyped that. CPNG. So I'm going to start going through these a little bit quicker. CZR, this would be Caesar Entertainment. Obviously, the other day, all the hotels and stuff, they had a really good day, had earnings, terrible earnings, dropped, lost a bucket, $1.08 per share. Definitely inside bar play here today. It does have more room down, but given that we are a reopening play, I don't think it's going to do some of the stuff because people aren't really talking about Delta anymore. So this is a play that for now I'm going to pass on. Partially too, because if you look at the option spread, look at this. You got like almost 60 cents between these two and only 38 traded. So not a lot of liquidity there. It doesn't interest me. DDD, this is actually a play that we had the other day, Desktop Metals. Or I'm sorry, 3D. I forget what Desktop Metals is. But I like this play, especially given some of the range that it has had. All right, got this. What? Cup and handle? Not really a cup and handle. That's like be pretty ugly, but it can be a mover. So I'm going to go and add that because inside play, anything that's down today, I'm looking at it going, that is simply because of the market. It really is. Now we pull up Dish. Dish had earnings yesterday, dipped big time. Go ahead and look at this on a larger time frame. All right, earnings were down, which is interesting because when earnings were at 99 versus 88, it jumped. $1.06 didn't do a whole lot. But it is at a pretty strong support level where it seems to have had some resistance and some support in the past. So I'm going to go ahead and add these contracts to the list. Even though they are a little lower liquidity, I think when a stock like this gets moving, these things can get moving with it. All right, so now we got DLTR. Obviously, look at this big run up. Yesterday came down, got bought right back up to here, hung out in this area, Dollar Tree. And this has been a stock that has done some really good things in the past. You can go further back. Even on the weekly, you can see it's got some range up still. Their contracts are fairly cheap. They are pretty liquid. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to add this to my list. And again, we're going to go through this list one more time and pare it down to 12. DVN, we're looking at a triple inside bar play. See this? 1, 2, 3, all within each other. So just because of that, I'm going to be adding it because those plays tend to be a little bit stronger than other ones. It has had some good liquidity on the contracts for next week, so I do like that as well. Continuing on, we got eBay. I don't really want to touch tech right now, so I'm not even going to bother with that. ET did have a pretty big gap down, but again, not a whole lot of range in here, so I'm not really paying attention to it. Etsy, obviously, they had good numbers. That was quite a move up. They came back down. Comparatively, whenever Etsy has done that, they do continue to run. But looking at the weekly, kind of feels a little bit overextended. It did the run, came back down. This actually acted as a bottom here for a couple days, moved up, but 250 down to, I don't know, 240. That's pretty good. So I'm going to add that to our list. I am getting some messages right now. And somebody's sharing my screen with me. I don't know why they'd be doing that. That's a little bit weird. Continuing on, We got FCX. Look at that. I don't know. It's kind of found support. Has a little bit of gap, but again, not a whole lot of range. So I look at this chart in general and I go, doesn't intrigue me. That's honestly one of the big things I look at is I go, do I like this chart? Do I feel like this chart has the ability to move? And if I do, I go for it. If I don't, I don't. This one right here, Fidelity, banks are pretty good right now. You can look at this on the daily. It was up higher. It did open up, came back, tested, bounced up, came back down. This is an inside bar play. They had earnings just a few days ago. They actually beat on earnings, but I don't know what their guidance was. But I do want to see potentially a move back up here. So I'm going to add it. Again, we'll go through, we'll pare this list down to roughly 12. So FITB. All right. I look at this. Fifth Third Bank Corp. I already got a couple banks. Don't really want to put that one on watch too because they're the same sector. Gevo, I just really hate this stock. And so I'm not even going to bother putting it on my list. It is a stock that can be a cult runner. It can do some pretty good things, but I'm just not interested in it at this moment. Here we're pulling up to GGPI. Guggenheim Incorporated, again, sector of banking. I already got some plays that I like. Plus this one, that move up, not a lot of range. Just, I don't think it's going to provide liquidity. And the options aren't expiring until November 19th. So again, not too intrigued by it. GS, these are just going to be way too expensive for us with Goldman Sachs. So I'm not even going to bother putting that on the watch list for you guys. Let's see. There's literally no volume on these contracts at all for GSM, so I'm not going to worry about it. All the contracts have been on the put side, but I want ones that show both calls and puts because I think that's really important if you're going to try to play both sides. So here we've got an inside day on Hal. This would be Halliburton. Even if it breaks up here, given where Boeing is at right now, I'm not entirely sure that this would be a good play yet because it kind of feels like Halliburton might want to pull back a little bit before it moves back up. But I'm going to put it on our list just because it's something to consider. HL, this would be Hecla Mining. Too cheap for me. I don't like it. I mean, there are some cheaper contracts that are available in terms of, like 17, 18 cents and that kind of stuff. But the stock itself, it doesn't have much range. I mean, look at this, like $5 to $6 for the last several days. Like, it's not going to give you the volatility that you need. Robinhood, obviously crap earnings, kind of bounce back up. There is a little bit of a gap here. But generally speaking, I think Hood is going to just stay around here until it can actually prove that it's got better numbers. So I don't think it's going to increase much. I don't think it's going to decrease much. So I'm not even going to bother. So ICPT, let me look at the option chain. These November 19th. Again, I want to skip those because we want weeklies. IR, same thing. JPM. All right, JPM, they did have good earnings. They bounced up, came back down. This is the level right here, maybe this 166 where it could bounce from all the way up to 162. So I do like that. I think it could provide some volatility. Go ahead and see what that one wants to do. KMI, Kinder Morgan Incorporated, they had earnings over here, got a dividend. Again, even if it jumps up, it's only $1. Not a whole lot of volume on the contracts, so I'm going to pass on that one. LAC, Lithium Americorp, probably running with Tesla. A lot of contracts have been traded on this one, so I'm going to go ahead and add it. Now, if you were to look at the weekly, you would know that right here was kind of its high, so it is sitting currently right around all-time highs. It's just been moving and moving and moving up. And so what that tells you, it's either going to keep going up or it's going to do what it did last time and lose half its value. So I'm going to keep paying attention to that because I think that's a really good one. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. I didn't even add it to my list. Yeah, I did. So LPSD, This one had a lot of liquidity on today's options, but almost none for next week. Big gap here. We're looking at oh my gosh, what is that? It's like a 20 something dollar gap. So I'm going to keep this one on watch. I'm going to not put the contracts on. Like, I would not be interested in contracts until it could actually break 76 because that's the gap. And so I'm going to just keep my eyes on it, but I'm not going to put it on a watch list yet. Even though it came down here, found some good support, I'd really need it to break this 73 level in order to get interested in 75 puts, because I know once it gets above 75, that thing's going to rip. But typically when you see a gap down like this and there's no earnings, it's probably because of bad news. So just throwing that out there. LYB, I don't really like it. Not a lot of liquidity on any of the contracts that are going on, so I'm going to skip over that. We got MRO. Again, not a lot of range. Had earnings, has a dividend. Don't see it doing a whole lot. Plus, we already have a few oil plays, so we're going to pass on that. MS. This would be Morgan Stanley. We already got some bank stuff, so we're going to pass on that too. Even though it looks okay, earnings, but that's a pretty big drop down there. Found some support, so I expect more of a slow grind. I want to find something that's actually going to break out. OCGN, this is actually one I do want to add to our list. I was thinking about this one earlier today. Got the news, sell the news event. But what do they have coming up next week? Earnings. That's right. That's what we want to pay attention to. So do watch OCGN for a break up or down. On the weekly, you can obviously see it's got some range. 7 all the way up to, I don't know, 17, whatever it was last week. But pay attention to that. Open, they had a pretty big drop today. Well, they had a big drop the other day, right? 224 all the way down to 20, bounce back up, drop back down. So there's a lot of indecision about this one. So I'm going to go ahead and add this to my watch list. Open Door Technologies. It's another petroleum one. Again, I want to move on from these. I don't like the current trend. Whenever I see something downtrending, can it go down more? Yes, but I want a violent move, not just a single move. Penn, they got earnings. They got tanked, obviously. But I do think it is worth watching because sometimes the next week they have bounce or they continue their move back down. Watch that. And again, this is gambling, right? This would be a great one for leaps. But just several days ago, they were up 33% higher than they are right now. So want to pay attention to that. QRTA, they had earnings drop down. Did a nice move back up. I'm going to go ahead and throw this one onto the watch list, mainly because I know some of you guys are looking for cheaper contracts. QRTEA, it's pretty good. It seems like it's got some moves that it can make. Yesterday might have been an overreaction given by the way it got bought up today. Oh, yeah, I don't know how to hide that, guys. My account number is totally shown. Ivan, can you edit that out? That'd be really cool. Thanks, man. Is there a way to hide this? Whatever. I don't really know. It shows it on all of my screens. Thanks, Ivan. You're the man. Nobody take a picture. That's my account. There's actually not much in it because I pulled everything out to do this edu edu account with you guys. Here's RSI. Not really a big fan of it. It's just too much chop. Not a clear direction. The weekly, though, I do like the weekly. So maybe for like a bigger move, if you're looking to add a swing, I mean, you could definitely set some targets here, like below 1912 and above 2183. But just in terms of the daily, like there's just too much movement, right? You got these $2 moves. Today was indecision day down at the bottom. I don't know. Plus the contracts aren't for a little while and they haven't been selling a whole lot. So moving on, we got SAVA, Sava. Obviously, you guys know this one. Had a big run yesterday when they got the news that they actually weren't scamming people. That's pretty cool. I don't want to play this one, though. The contracts are too expensive. Like, if you're the smaller account, you would literally have to throw the whole account in there. So I'm going to move on from that. SCHW Schwab. That's another banking. Again, I already found some banking plays I liked. So if the sector goes, those plays will go. So pay attention to that. SKLZ. Look at that, $12. I'm going to add this to the list. This is a really good mover the other day off of an inside bar play. Like we played it right here. Boom, we got that. A lot of people played it just a few days ago. They got a really good move at it. But I think skills is either A, going to break down, or B, going to run up. But the earnings, they were better than they thought they'd be. Account info, top option buying power. All right, I'll do that later, Deb, so I don't ruin the video. Ivan said he could take it out for this when we post it. So, yeah, I got wrecked today. It was fun. I already told you guys that, though. Apple crushed me, man. I was stupid with that play. All right. Skills. Here we are. We're good. I like that. Added to my list. Again, I'm looking at this. Kathy Woods is in this. So if I want to get some stuff early on, I think there's a way where we could do some banking on it. TWLO, it is in the gap. We talked about this. It's got a big gap up here. This is an earnings gap. But contracts, as you guys can see, really expensive. So we're going to move on from that. We only want stuff that we can scale into right now. Here, Verizon contracts are actually fairly cheap on this. 52.5 for this next week. It is an inside play. Already earnings is out of the way. Look at the weekly. It's got some rooms. All it takes is one catalyst. So we're going to add that. And then lastly, we got WFC. That is another banking play. Obviously, it's just kind of come down, had their earnings, dividend, all that kind of stuff. So those are our inside bar plays that came up from the scanner. So we come up here and we look at this and we go, okay, what do we got? We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. That is way too many plays for us to watch. So we're going to come in here and basically I'm going to try to eliminate the most expensive ones. Now, Affirm looks good. It really does. But I'm looking at these contracts here. They're just going to be too expensive for us to do more than one or two at a time. So I'm going to take it off the list. Any, we'll do this one. These contracts are actually really affordable. So we're going to keep those. EKKT. All right, we're going to come in here and go, all right. Like, I mean, we do like the daily on this. It is flagging. It is going to make a decision one way or the other pretty big. So I'm going to keep that one on. Coming in with Chewy. All right, the contracts aren't too bad. Could make a nice move either way. Might be turning here. Bearish short term, but again, bullish. So I'm going to keep Chewy on. Oh, that's why this one shouldn't even be on here. This is a typo earlier. My bad. Oh, no, it wasn't, but I actually didn't like that play that much anyways. CPE. Where are we at? All right, we closed up here. I definitely want to keep this one on watch. Even though, again, contracts are a little more expensive. If oil breaks out or breaks down, those will be good. CPNG, then move down. Probably going to see a move up. These contracts are fairly inexpensive, and there's a lot of liquidity for them, but they are November 19th, so we're going to go ahead and take those off too, because we're only trying to focus on ones that have weeklies. So coming to DDD. All right, it's going to make a move either way, so we're going to hold on to that one. Dish has cheaper contracts. They are somewhat liquid, not very liquid, so because of that, we're going to pull it off, even though it's a play that might do some pretty cool stuff here. DLTR, I look at this and I go, yeah, this is going to be something that makes a decision one way or the other here pretty quick. It's got contracts for next week that aren't too much, so we're going to go ahead and hold on to that one. DBN, same thing, right? It's kind of topping out here. So if it moves down a couple of bucks, these contracts, which are fairly cheap, it could pay pretty well. And there is some good volume on the call side, not really the put side. So we're going to hold on to those anyways. Etsy, these are going to be too expensive. We're going to go ahead and pull those off. This is the Small Education Account Challenge. FIS, again, these are very expensive. They aren't till the 19th, so we're going to pull those off as well. And the reason I'm doing that, guys, is because they just don't have as much liquidity. That's really what it is. HAL contracts aren't too bad. We're going to keep those. They're pretty cheap. For next week, we're talking about 40 cents a contract. So I like that. And they can actually end up, if Halliburton goes up even 50 cents, becoming worth 50% more than they are. So I like that. JPM, come back in here just so you guys can kind of see the contract prices. Pretty cheap, right? Not too bad. And JPM is going to be deciding what it wants to do here soon. Its consolidation range has been about $4 to $5, so I think it's safe to keep that one on. LAC, these are actually fairly expensive, so I'm going to go ahead and take those off. OCGN, these contracts are pretty cheap, so we're going to leave that on. It is also a Momo stock, but there is the technical pattern that we want to be playing here as well. So I like that. Open contracts are a little more expensive. I'm going to keep it for now, and we're going to do one more to pare it down. Pen, I want to keep that one on. Utera, these are cheap contracts. I want to keep it on. Skills, cheap contracts. I want to keep it on. And Verizon, cheap contracts. I want to keep it on. So right now we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. You know what? I'm okay with 16 contracts. Hopefully you guys are too. I just really don't see too much of an issue with that. So we're going to stick with it. And it's going to be good. So what we do now is we actually need to create our watch list in TOS. And this is how we quickly trade contracts, because remember, this is paired to my active trader over here. So I'm going to go into products and I'm going to look at any first. Now to do this, I'm actually just going to pull up a separate screen with the tickers so that I don't have to look at them. But basically what I'm looking for right now is today's high and today's low. And then I'm going to find the contracts for this week that are the closest to it. So today, Any had a high of 683 and it had a low of 647. So I want to pick the contract that is closest to 683 for a call. So that would be $8. And I'm going to come here and I'm going to go send a watch list contracts. And it's right there because I'd created a separate watch list that I have just for this, right? And so if 647 is my low, I'm going to come in here. I'm going to right click, go send a watch list, and whatever watch list it is that you want it to go to, watch list contract. I'm going to come in to BKKT. So let me pull up BKKT on my separate device. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to see the high was 35.74, the low was 32.38. So whatever is closest to 35.74 for next week is... add some more expiries. It's going to be 36. So I'm going to come in here and send it to, not yellow, you got to go to your watch list. Watch list contracts. And then the closest would be 32. And I'm going to come in, I'm going to send it into my watch list. And so essentially, guys, I'm going to go ahead, and I'm not going to do it right now because I want to take some time for some questions. I don't want this to be too long. But I want you guys to go through and do that for all the rest. For those of you guys who are watching, or for those who are just watching to learn, you do that through the rest of these. And then when you have the high-low marker, like this right here, so BKKT, what you can do is go, okay, so the high of today was 35.76 or 74, depends on which broker you're looking at. But you're going to come in here and you're going to say, where's my add alert? Create alert. So buy BKKT call, and then you're going to come and you're going to set the price. You're going to say 35.6. You're going to do that for a put as well. Say create alert. Buy BKKT put. We'll set your level. And your level for today is 32.38. Now you have your alert set. You come in here. Whenever this crosses, you're going to get an alert that pops up here on your TOS screen that says buy a put. Now, it doesn't mean you have to automatically buy it. It just means I need to start watching this thing, looking at this thing, because it now is in breakdown territory, which for one like BKKT, you could see it's probably going to go down a whole lot more. So that is how I create my watch list. It's fun. I'll go through later and do this, but I wanted to make sure that I at least took some time for you guys to answer any questions you guys have for the next 9 minutes or so, because I want this to be helpful. I want it to really be able to explain what we're doing, why we're doing it, how we're doing it. But yeah, what questions do you guys have, if any, about the inside bar plays, about scanning, about how to create a watch list, about how to trade these things? All right, so a couple different things. Someone asked, how do you handle if the price fake out by going beyond the alert, up, down? How do you handle it? So there's two ways to do it. So if the price is above your breakout point or below your breakdown point in the pre-market, what you want to do is you want to wait for a retest. So you want it to come back, test it, reject, or confirm support, and then you can enter. If you are playing something that is about to break through or about to break down, scalp. Use 20% of the size that you normally would. Don't go a full position. Scalp it typically with the IV spike that does happen and the volume that comes in, because people are looking for these breakout and breakdowns. You're going to be okay. Just scalp it, spend some money on it. You find, sell, buy on the retest, and then ride it out. How do I keep track of the alerts when they're firing so quickly? I tried this week and totally got overwhelmed with what was breaking what. Uh, honestly, it's because I have a screen up top that watches all of the different tickers that I'm currently in. I can see which ones are going to be closest to it, and I watch it. That's really what I do. It helps having all of my watch lists right here, and it helps having my tickers right here. So if I see something's about to break out in my top screen, I can just click really quick and be like, oh, that's about to happen on 5 minute. I need to really pay attention to this. And then I can pull up the contract here, like say it's any, for example. An alert hits, I pull it up, I go, okay, cool. I'm going to pull up any, boom, buy some calls just like that. It does get a little overwhelming. The reason I keep up anywhere from 12 to 16, usually 10 to 12, to be honest, though, is because I've found that in doing so, not every play is going to hit. Like we had multiple plays today that hit, multiple plays that didn't hit. I just want to pay attention to the ones that are. Black Friday monitor hunt is in. Yeah, it definitely does help to have multiple monitors when you're trading this. Do I use the notification list in TOS? No, I don't even know what that is. I just manually set notifications based on the high low of the previous day, and when they trigger, I get my beep. And honestly, I don't even know which one's beeping because it pops up and leaves so quick. So I just look at my screen and I look at where the stocks are, and because I've got those nice green red lines, I'm good to go. Because when I'm scalping, I do look at volume and OI, like I talked to you about that just a second ago. Real humans, that there were some contracts, or rather stocks, that did pop up in my watch list, but I didn't like the volume on them. But I do have a volume filter here. So if something is not trading a lot of volume on the day, I'm probably not going to trade it. So I do look at that. OI is one of the things that I will look at a little bit, but when I'm scalping, and when I say scalping, I'm talking about 30 minutes to an hour, usually 5 minutes though, of holding it. Things like the Greeks don't matter. Now, if you're swinging or planning to hold all throughout the day, the Greeks definitely do matter. But I'm looking for technical breakouts because I found that those can be incredibly successful. What else? What other questions do you guys have for me? And if you guys don't have any, that's totally okay too. I want this to be something that helps you guys, that's educational, that you find valuable. So I'll maybe hang out here for another minute or two before Ivan and I close it down. Is there anything you guys want to know? I'll keep adding stuff for next week while I'm waiting, because I see some people typing here. By the way, it's always weird to be just one person doing this because you have no one to actually banter with. It's kind of fun. I should have brought Ralph on here. Dang it, Ralph. Someone's typing a whole lot. Must be a really long question. Ralph Wiggins, your request. Yeah. No. Our reading. Oh, golly, man. I can't see with this stream. All right. I got to move over into a different Discord. Do you often get in before breaks when the chart looks good? Yeah, sometimes I do. All right. So sometimes, like, I mean, today obviously I'll just pull up Apple. Apple did not work for me. So again, it wasn't even on my list. It burned me. A little salty about it. Don't judge me. But I was looking at Apple here, right? So you had the Apple break up here, which is what I was looking for. I entered right here, anticipating it to break, and it didn't, and it quickly broke down. Thought it would bounce, never did. Took the loss. That sucks. But typically, the only time that I'll do it outside of today, because again, I broke my rules, is when I see a really strong bounce. So great example. What was that the other day? Walmart. Sorry. Let me show you Walmart's chart from the other day. All right. Not here. Not here. All right. Walmart. We played this one. I think this was on maybe Monday or something like that. So Walmart came up. It rejected off of this high and it broke back down. I entered the play right here. I think it was like 13 cents a contract because I knew this 200 SMA was super strong. And I knew, okay, I'm just going to play the bounce up here. If it rejects again, I can get out. Now, obviously, that did not happen. It broke through and then it continued to rip like another buck. So I will play in between these ranges a lot. If there is a very key level like the 200 SMA, or if you see some previous support on the daily, you can actually play in between these ranges. But if you do that, I would highly encourage you, just play with smaller size, right? Only play heavier on actual breakouts that have been confirmed because that gives you your best chance of actually making money. What is the max percent of loss do I exit at? Well, today, not bueno. Typically, like I'm willing to lose, and this is again, I gotta kind of caveat this, right? Usually I'm trading with a much larger account, but I'm doing this EDU challenge to try to help you guys figure out how to be profitable and successful as traders. So it used to be that I'd be willing to lose like 20, 30%. That wasn't a big deal for me because I knew I'd be right 100%, 200% more than I would be wrong. But for this account challenge, typically my rule is, and again, I broke it today, so I totally own that, is 10% per play, which if you're playing 5 plays with about 20% in each one is about 2% of your account size. So if you have an account of $1,000, that's $20. All right, any other questions? Because we're rolling up on an hour here, and I want to make sure that we respect your time and honestly respect my family's time because my kids do want to go swimming here. Any other questions? Be sure you type them in now so I can get to them. And if not, you can ask them to the room. We have some brilliant options traders in there. Erica, we got Ralph. I know Shark's hanging around a lot. Just a lot of really, really good people. All right, guys. Well, if that's it, reading resources, Inside Bar Plays, no. I would just say this: read Volume Price Analysis by Cooling. Phenomenal book. That'll help you see the underlying moves, and with the underlying moves, you'll know kind of where the option is probably going. And then also, Trading in the Zone by Mark Douglas. This is a book that is all about trading psychology and how you manage just the way you approach it. Definitely got to do that, guys. Yep, Anna Cooling. She is a boss. How long will I hold my zero DTE? Well, honestly, Erica, sometimes I'm hopping into zero DTE like 2 minutes before market. So it just really kind of depends. I try not to hold it too long because theta decay is something that can kill it if it's not in the money. But if I see a significant move happening, like Apple when it bounced off that 150 today, those contracts, like I wish I'd waited to get in then. Those contracts went from like 32 cents up to $1.40, right, in about 20, 25 minutes. So for me, I try not to hold too long unless it's in the money. But if it's OTM, I'm going to cut that thing quick, usually. So, all right, guys, that's how you build a watch list. That's how you scan for the inside bar. Be sure to check out the EDU channel that I'm doing because in there I've got links to my scanner, to my setup on TOS. If you don't know how to do this, it'll just make it a lot easier for you guys. So I hope you all have a fantastic Friday. I hope you make your watch list today and then you don't think about stocks at all for the next several days because, guys, life is more than the markets. Get out there, have some fun, enjoy the weather, enjoy the people you love. The markets will be here Monday. If you make the plan today, you'll be good to go. So hope you all have a great day.